I took the job because I needed money. That's usually how these stories start. Nobody dreams of working the night shift at a half-dead supermarket in rural Texas. Nobody says, "When I grow up, I want to mop melted ice cream off the floor at 3 a.m. and argue with drunk customers." But bills don't care about dreams. My name is Ryan Holloway. 28. Recently divorced. Moved out of Dallas after everything fell apart. Ended up in a small town outside Waco where rent was cheap and opportunities were limited. The supermarket was called Miller's Market. Open 24 hours. Old building. Low ceilings. Fluorescent lights that hummed constantly. The kind of place where every aisle looked exactly the same and every employee looked tired. I applied. The manager hired me in under 6 minutes. That should have been my first warning. His name was Frank. Late 50s. Big stomach. Gray mustache. Always looked like he hadn't slept. He read my application. Night availability? Yes. Weekend availability? Yes. Reliable transportation? Yes. He nodded. You start tonight. That was it. No interview. No questions. No training. Just show up at 9. I should have left. Instead, I bought a frozen burrito and came back. At 8:50 p.m. Frank was waiting. He handed me store keys, employee vest, radio, a folded piece of paper. He looked at me long enough that I started feeling uncomfortable. Then he said, "Read that." I unfolded the paper. At the top, night shift rules. Below it, Rule #1 lock the front entrance at exactly 2:30 a.m. Rule #2 after 2:30. Customers may still enter. Do not stop them. Rule #3 if someone enters without taking a basket. Do not look at their face. Rule #4 do not check camera 4. Rule #5 if overhead speakers call your name. Do not answer. Rule #6 if an employee wearing a blue uniform asks for help. Leave immediately. Rule #7 at 4:17 a.m. All lights will briefly turn off. Stay where you are. Rule #8 if you see someone standing at the end of an aisle. Do not approach. Rule #9 if a customer says, "Can you help me find the milk?" Leave the building immediately. Rule #10 do not stay after sunrise. I looked up. Frank stared at me. I laughed. He didn't. I said, "Funny." He nodded slowly. Yeah. Then he walked away. That should have been my second warning. For the first few hours, nothing happened. And I mean nothing. No strange customers. No flickering lights. No voices over the speakers. No blue uniformed ghosts asking me to follow them into the freezer. Just a tired old supermarket breathing quietly under fluorescent lights. Frank showed me the basics before leaving. Register 1 works, he said. Register 2 freezes if you scan produce. Don't use it unless you have to. He pointed toward the back. Break rooms there. Restrooms past the dairy section. Emergency exit near receiving. Then he looked toward the ceiling. Speakers work sometimes. Sometimes they don't. I glanced at him. Is that another rule? He didn't smile. No. Just a fact. That was the thing about Frank. He never joked. Not once. He explained everything in the same flat tone. Whether he was talking about mop buckets or emergency exits or a rule sheet that sounded like it had been written by someone losing their mind. Before leaving, he stopped near the front doors. The automatic doors opened behind him with a tired mechanical groan. Cold air slipped into the store. Outside, the parking lot was mostly empty. A few trucks. One broken shopping cart tipped on its side. Beyond the lot, nothing but darkness and a two-lane road stretching toward fields I couldn't see. Frank turned back. One more thing. I looked up from the register. Yeah. If you mess up, don't run outside. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. Where should I run? Frank stared at me. Not outside. Then he stepped through the doors. They slid shut behind him. I stood there in my red vest, holding the folded rule sheet, wondering what kind of idiot I was for staying. But then I checked my bank app. $37.12. That answered the question. I stayed. At first, the shift was almost peaceful. A woman came in around 9:40 and bought diapers, orange juice, and a bottle of cheap wine. She looked exhausted. She apologized twice because her card declined the first time. A teenager came in around 10:15 and bought energy drinks, hot chips, and a pregnancy test. He avoided eye contact the entire time. At 11:03, a trucker bought 2 microwavable burritos and asked if the restroom worked. At midnight, an older man came in, walked slowly through the aisles, picked up 1 can of peaches, paid in exact change, and left. Normal people. Normal problems. Normal loneliness. Around 12:30, the store became completely empty. That was when I started hearing the building. During the day, supermarkets are full of noise. Carts rattling. Plastic bags rustling. Kids whining. People coughing. Cash registers beeping. Doors opening and closing. But at night, every small sound becomes too clear. The hum of the refrigerators. The buzz of the ceiling lights. The soft click of the automatic doors resetting. The distant drip of something in the back room. The building felt alive. Not haunted. Not yet. Just old. Tired. Watching. I walked the aisles because standing at the register made me feel useless. Aisle 1, bread. Cereal. Peanut butter. Aisle 2, canned food. Pasta. Rice. Aisle 3, cleaning supplies. Aisle 4, pet food. Aisle 5, chips and soda. Aisle 6, baby products. Aisle 7, medicine. Aisle 8, frozen food. Dairy along the back wall. Meat department closed. Bakery dark. The store was smaller than most chain supermarkets. But at night it somehow felt bigger. The aisles seemed longer when there was no one in them. At 1:12 a.m., I found a jar of pickles on the floor in aisle 2. It hadn't broken. It was just lying there on its side. I picked it up and put it back. At 1:29, I found it on the floor again. Same jar. Same spot. This time I laughed. Great. I muttered. Ghost pickles. I put it on a different shelf. At 1:43, it rolled out from under the aisle and tapped my shoe. I stopped laughing. I looked down. The jar lay against my sneaker. The lid faced upward. There was something scratched into the metal cap. Not printed. Scratched. 3 words. Read the rules. I backed away from it. Then I heard the front doors open. The sound was loud in the empty store. A mechanical groan. A rush of cold air. I turned toward the entrance. A woman had walked in. She looked about 40. Brown coat. Wet hair. No makeup. Her face was pale. But not in a supernatural way. More like someone who had been crying or walking in cold weather too long. She took a basket. I noticed that immediately. Rule number 3 said if someone entered without taking a basket, don't look at their face. She took one. So I looked. Her eyes were red. She gave me a small tired smile. Are you open? I almost laughed. The store lights were on. I was standing there in a vest. Yeah. I said. We're open. She nodded. Good. Then she walked toward the back. Her shoes squeaked softly on the floor. I watched her disappear past aisle 5. For a few minutes. I heard her moving around. A refrigerator door opening. A basket handle creaking. Something being placed inside. Then silence. At 1:58. I called out. Ma'am. You finding everything okay? No answer. I walked toward the aisles. The store felt colder than before. I checked aisle 5. Empty. Aisle 6. Empty. Aisle 7. Empty. Then I saw her at the very end of aisle 8. Near the frozen food. She stood with her back to me. Staring into the freezer glass. Her basket hung from one hand. It was empty. I took one step forward. Then I stopped. Rule number 8. If you see someone standing at the end of an aisle, do not approach. I felt stupid. She was just a customer. A tired woman buying frozen dinners at 2 a.m. But the rule sheet was in my pocket. Folded against my thigh like a warning. I said from where I stood. Ma'am. She didn't move. Do you need help? Her shoulders rose slightly. Then she said. Not yet. I didn't like that answer. I stepped backward. Slowly. One step. Then another. Her reflection in the freezer glass turned its head toward me. But her body didn't move. I froze. The reflection smiled. The woman herself kept facing the freezer. I walked backward until I reached the front of the store. Then I stood behind the register and pretended I wasn't shaking. At 2:12. She came to the front. Normal. Completely normal. Her basket now had 3 items. A carton of eggs. A roll of duct tape. A small birthday cake from the bakery clearance rack. The cake had blue frosting. On top, written in shaky white icing, were the words, "Welcome back, Ryan." I stared at it. She placed the basket on the counter. "Is something wrong?" she asked. My mouth had gone dry. "How do you know my name?" She pointed at my vest. "My name tag. Ryan." "Of course." I forced myself to breathe. "Right. Sorry." I scanned the eggs. Beep. The duct tape. Beep. Then the cake. The register froze. The screen went black. For a second, I saw my reflection in it. Behind me stood a man in a blue uniform. I spun around. No one was there. When I turned back, the woman was watching me. Not smiling now. She leaned closer. "You're new." I didn't answer. She whispered. "Don't let them hear you answer." The register came back on. Her total appeared. $14.17. She paid in cash. Exact change. Before leaving, she picked up the cake. Then paused. Ryan?" I looked at her. The moment I did, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she said. Then she walked out. The automatic doors opened. Cold air entered. The doors closed. And the cake was still on the counter. I looked down. The blue frosting had changed. The words no longer said, "Welcome back, Ryan." Now they said, "First night." I threw the cake into the trash. Then I checked the time. 2:27 a.m. 3 minutes until rule number 1. Lock the front entrance at exactly 2:30 a.m. My hands were sweating so badly I almost dropped the keys. At 2:29, I stood by the doors. Outside, the parking lot was empty. No cars. No people. No wind. The road beyond the lot disappeared into blackness. The clock above the entrance clicked. 2:30. I turned the key. The lock slid into place. For 1 second, I felt relief. Then the automatic doors opened behind the locked frame. Not all the way. Just enough for someone to step through. A man entered. He did not take a basket. I remembered rule number 3 too late. Because I had already looked at his face. Or where his face should have been. There wasn't one. Not blank skin. Not a mask. Just a place my eyes refused to understand. Like someone had cut the idea of a face out of the air and left the rest of the head behind. My stomach lurched. The man wore a brown suit. Old-fashioned. Wet at the shoulders. He walked past me without a sound. No squeak of shoes. No rustle of clothing. He went straight into aisle 1. I stood there. Frozen. Staring at the place where he had disappeared. Then the radio on my belt crackled. Frank's voice came through. But Frank wasn't there. "Ryan." I grabbed the radio. Almost answered. Then I remembered rule number 5. If overhead speakers call your name, do not answer. This was the radio. Not the overhead speaker. Still. I didn't speak. The radio crackled again. "Ryan. You looked." I pulled the radio off my belt and threw it onto the counter. It kept talking. "Ryan. You looked at him." The overhead speakers clicked on. A soft tone echoed through the store. Then a woman's voice said, "Customer assistance needed in aisle 1. A pause. Then, "Ryan Holloway. Please report to aisle 1. I backed away from the counter. The voice repeated. "Ryan Holloway. Please report to aisle 1. Then another voice joined it. "A child. Ryan." Then another. "An old man. Ryan." Then several voices at once. "Ryan. Ryan. Ryan." All coming from the ceiling. I covered my ears. In aisle 1. Something knocked over boxes. Cereal spilled across the floor. A jar shattered. Then a wet dragging sound moved slowly from aisle 1 toward aisle 2. The speakers whispered, "Answer us." I didn't. I crouched behind the counter and pressed both hands over my mouth. The dragging sound stopped. For a long moment. There was only the hum of lights. Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Careful. Coming toward the front. The faceless man emerged from aisle 1. He stood at the end of the checkout lane. His head turned in my direction. Even without a face. I knew he was looking at me. The speakers went silent. The man raised one hand. He pointed at me. Then he turned and walked toward the dairy section. I stayed behind the counter until I couldn't hear him anymore. At 3:06 a.m. I finally stood. The store looked normal again. Almost. Aisle 1 was clean. No spilled cereal. No broken jar. No wet footprints. The front doors were still locked. I checked the security monitors behind the service desk. Camera 1, front entrance. Camera 2, checkout lanes. Camera 3, parking lot. Camera 4, black screen. Camera 5, dairy. Camera 6, frozen food. Camera 7, receiving. Camera 8, break room. I stared at camera 4. Just a black square. Rule number 4. Do not check camera 4. I didn't click it. But I wanted to. God help me. I wanted to. Because when someone tells you not to look at something, the thought of looking starts chewing at the inside of your skull. What was camera 4? Why was it black? What part of the store did it show? I moved the mouse away. Then camera 4 flickered. Only once. For less than a second. But I saw enough. It showed the checkout lane. It showed me standing behind the service desk. And behind me, wearing a blue uniform, was another employee. I turned around. No one. The monitor flickered again. This time the blue uniformed employee was closer. On the screen. He stood directly behind my shoulder. His mouth was open. Too wide. I slammed the monitor off. The store went quiet. Then someone spoke from behind me. First night. I turned slowly. A young man stood near the end of the counter. He wore the same red vest as me. Not blue. Red. He looked maybe 22. Thin. Curly hair. Tired eyes. Name tag said Miles. I almost cried from relief. Jesus Christ. I said. Where did you come from? Receiving door, he said. Frank didn't tell you I'd be here. No. Miles sighed. Of course he didn't. You work nights too. Sometimes. That wasn't exactly comforting. He looked at my face. You saw something. I nodded. The guy without a face. Miles closed his eyes. Did he take a basket? No. Did you look? I didn't answer. Miles rubbed his forehead. Okay. That's bad. What the hell is going on in this store? He looked toward the aisles. Then back at me. Lower your voice. Why? Because the store listens better after 2:30. I stared at him. He wasn't joking. Nobody in this place joked. Miles walked behind the counter and picked up the rule sheet. You still have this? Yeah. Good. Keep it on you. What is this place? He didn't answer immediately. He looked at the front doors. Still locked. Then at the ceiling speakers. Then at camera 4's blank monitor. Finally he said. Miller's Market used to close at 10. When? Before the missing kids. My skin went cold. What missing kids? Miles looked like he regretted saying it. 2 of them. Brother and sister. 1998, their mom brought them here after school. She turned away for maybe 30 seconds in the cereal aisle. They were gone. Kidnapping? That's what police said. But? He lowered his voice. They were found 3 days later. I waited. Miles swallowed. In the dairy cooler. I looked toward the back wall. The refrigerators hummed. But you said they went missing in the cereal aisle. They did. How did they get into the dairy cooler? They didn't. What does that mean? Miles leaned closer. It means the police checked the cooler the first night. So did half the town. Nothing. Then 3 days later. They were just there. Sitting side by side on the floor. Frozen solid. I felt sick. And the store stayed open. Not at first. It closed for almost a year. Then Miller's reopened it. After that, strange things started happening. Why would anyone work here? Miles smiled without humor. Same reason you do. Money. Desperation. No better options. I looked at the rule sheet again. Who wrote these? People who survived long enough. And Frank? Miles looked away. Frank's been here longer than anyone. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the overhead speakers clicked. A soft tone. Then Frank's voice filled the store. Miles. Please report to the dairy section. Miles went pale. I looked at him. That's not Frank. Is it? He shook his head. The speakers clicked again. Miles. Dairy section. Miles whispered. Rule number 5. Do not answer. I said. He nodded. But from the dairy section, we heard something else. A child crying. Softly. A little girl. Miles closed his eyes. No, he whispered. The crying grew louder. Please, the child sobbed. It's cold. Miles' hands curled into fists. I grabbed his arm. Don't. He didn't move. The girl cried again. Miles. Help me. I felt his arm tense. You know that voice? I asked. His eyes filled with tears. My sister. The speakers whispered. Miles. He pulled away from me. Don't go. I said. He looked at me with a grief so old it seemed carved into him. I didn't go last time. Then he walked toward the dairy section. I followed 3 steps before he turned back and hissed. Stay here. He disappeared past aisle 6. The crying stopped. The store became silent. I waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. Then Miles screamed. Not a normal scream. Not pain exactly. A scream like someone had just realized they were already dead. I ran. I forgot the rules. I ran past aisle 5. Past baby products. Past medicine. Toward the glowing refrigerators along the back wall. The dairy section was empty. No Miles. No child. Only rows of milk cartons behind glass doors. One of the cooler doors hung open. Cold air poured out. On the floor inside the cooler was Miles' red vest. Folded neatly. His name tag sat on top. But the name had changed. It no longer said Miles. It said Ryan. Behind me. The speakers clicked on. A woman's voice said cheerfully. Attention. Miller's Market shoppers. We are pleased to welcome our newest night associate. Then all the lights went out. I checked the time on my phone. 4:17 a.m. Rule number 7. At 4:17 a.m. all lights will briefly turn off. Stay where you are. I stood frozen in the dairy section. In total darkness. Something breathed behind the milk shelves. Something small giggled from inside the cooler. And somewhere near the front of the store, the automatic doors opened again.